Hey, Pretty Girl Club. Welcome to another episode of the Exotical Storytime series. Be sure to share your stories to exoticalsunited@gmail.com. I'm looking to get our voices heard. As this channel grows, it's really important that we tell our side of the story. So, our side of the colorism story, our side of the phenotype story, like people being envious of our phenotype, or just whatever you feel is necessary for other people to understand about your background as a darker skinned exotical or a lighter skinned exotical or someone who is monoracial but you happen to look mixed. If there is anything that you want to be heard on this channel, please email me at exoticalsunited@gmail.com. Let's get into the story time. She says, I am Fenty 345 in the summer. I am the lightest out of my whole mama's side. Caramel skin tone, my mom is dark brown, like the dark brown couches, and so is the rest of my family. And for a good majority of my life, my mama never wanted to call me light-skinned. She would call everyone else light-skinned that is darker than me, particularly men. Yes, I've noticed that a lot of black women are very hypocritical when it comes to what is light-skinned and what's not. Their standards for light-skinned women are much lighter than for light-skinned men. Notice how they will call men like T.I., Will Smith, August Alsina. They'll call guys like that light-skinned. They'll call Shamar Moore and Boris Kojo light-skinned. But if you're a woman and you have a skin tone that is around that complexion, suddenly it's, oh, you're not light-skinned, actually. And the reason they do that is because they know that light skin for a woman is seen as a status symbol. In reality, it's only seen as a status symbol by them, or I guess maybe some colorist black men. But in their mind, light-skinned equals compliment and brown/dark skinned equals insult. And so a lot of women who are jealous and they view you as a threat, they don't want to give you anything that you could have over them. And notice how it's usually non-light skinned people who like to police and argue back and forth about who's light skinned and who's not. If you police it, you're pedestalizing it. And so a lot of those people who do that, they're just exposing themselves. But let's continue. She said, I've always been asked if I was mixed as a child and lied about it because I knew I could get away with it because I look mixed. I thought I was adopted because of me and my parents' skin color differences. Anytime someone else would give me a compliment, my mom would mean mug me slightly on her face, and I would notice it as a child, but I never said anything. And I've had white people call me light-skinned, and so would Hispanics. But I've noticed black women and men would try to humble me, saying, you're not Krishan Rock's skin color, or you're not light-skinned because you're not light in the dark, while we were on FaceTime. I've only been approached by dark-skinned men and maybe one light-skinned throughout my whole life. My dark-skinned sister would ignore me around her friends or let dark-skinned women and men mistreat me. So did teachers. Yeah, I have an episode coming up about jealous siblings. And sometimes, let's say you have a half sibling or a step sibling, and maybe they have a different mom or a different dad and a different phenotype than you. I've noticed sometimes that can be triggering as well. And also, have you ever noticed that a lot of people, they love to use someone lighter than you to check you? That's exposing themselves right there because they're basically admitting, hey, I know that I, as an unambiguous dark-skinned monoracial person, can't check you. So I'm going to use another one of your own people to try to check you. And it's like, oh, you're not that light-skinned, but who is? Like, who are you comparing me to? I'm not that light-skinned. Compared to who? Based on what? What is your standard of light skin? Just admit that you uphold the paper bag test and keep it moving. And then don't accuse me of being a colorist because you're the one who upholds the paper bag test. But this is something that is very common amongst us light-skinned people who are not white passing. A lot of people love to try to say, well, you're not that light-skinned. And this is why I say I'm so glad we have our own spaces because guess what? The Exoticals have united, baby. And you can't tell me how to navigate through society. Other people cannot tell us what our actual skin tones are. They can give their opinions, but just because someone gives their opinion on our skin tones does not mean that we have to internalize it. And I've noticed that a lot of people where they have internalized colorism, they want you to have internalized colorism about your skin tone. They feel inferior because they are darker than you, and so they want you to also feel inferior to those who are lighter than you. I am to the point now where I actually believe that anytime someone says you're not that light skin, that is actually proof that you are an undeniable light skin. because the fact that somebody has to bring that up randomly and go out of their way to say you're not that light skinned, that's proof that you are light skinned, because they feel threatened by your skin tone, so they want to try to tell you you're not that light skinned. That's the same as telling somebody you're not that pretty. That's the same as the manosphere guys telling a beautiful woman, oh, you're just a 6 out of 10. Oh, you're pretty, but you're not that pretty. You're not as pretty as somebody else who's prettier than you. No, they're trying to remind you of somebody else who is quote unquote better than you or higher up on some sort of social hierarchy. But that is still proof that you are obviously higher up on the social hierarchy than them. In their mind, you are obviously a part of the beauty community. If a guy is going out of his way to say you're not a 10, you're a 6, you're obviously a part of the light skin community. If somebody is going out of their way to say you're not that light skinned, you're not as light skinned as so and so. And literally, I have heard this comment by you guys thousands of times. This is a common experience that we have as light skins that are non-white passing. People love telling us all the time, you're not that light skinned. And it's like, who died and made you the queen of deciding who gets to be light skinned and who's not? How about this? I get to determine my own skin tone, bitch. I get to say my own skin tone nickname. You cannot cause me to change my self-perception. I've noticed that a lot of times people, they have this mindset of they don't want you to be in control of your own self-perception. They get mad that you think you're light-skinned. That's literally what it is. They are mad and jealous because you know that you are light-skinned or you think you're light-skinned. And so they want to try to put you down because they think that by you calling yourself light-skinned, it's going to give you more confidence. First of all, people should be confident in any skin tone. So yeah, you should be confident in your skin tone if it's light. Just like how you should be confident in your skin tone if it's dark, or if you are a white person, Asian person, or any other person. But yeah, this is very common. I'm pretty sure all of us have been told you're not that light skin if you're a light skinned person who is not white passing, or if you're a light skinned person who, maybe you have type 4 hair or African facial features. This is a very common humbling tactic that people try to use because they want us to feel insecure. They want us to feel like we are inferior to women like Halsey or Meghan Markle who look more white passing, but it's not going to work. We've already come up with our own standard of light skin here on this channel. And by the way, we all voted on Fenty 390 and above because as we were all sharing our foundation shades and our experiences, we noticed that our experiences were starting to overlap a lot once you get to Fenty 390 and above. So my theory is that Fenty, the 300s in Fenty, that's kind of like the non-white passing light skin. I've noticed that when you're in that shade range, which I am as well, I've noticed that people, they try to say like, oh, well, you're not that light skinned. And then I've noticed the Fenty 200 shade range is when people try to make comments like, oh, well, you're not even black at all, or you look like a white girl, you look like a dark white girl, like Fenty 200s and above. I noticed that some people try to make negative comments, and then they will try to compare the women who are lighter than us. They'll try to compare the more white passing light skins to us in the Fenty 300s, and then they'll try to say, oh, well, Aaliyah is prettier than you, or Halle Berry or whatever other person is prettier than you if you look like Meghan Markle, for example. But then they'll do the exact opposite to us. They'll say, oh, well, you're not that light skinned. You're not as light as Mariah Carey or Meghan Markle or somebody else. So this is all just a tactic that we have now exposed here on the Exoticals United YouTube channel because there are 11,000 of us, baby. The Exoticals have united. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments section and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.